Indeed. Now let's take a closer look at Senator McConnell's stimulus plan. Bring in Georgia Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler. Senator, thanks for coming in.
Good morning, Ed. It's great to be here.
Good to see you. The National Restaurant Association putting out a call to arms. They say they may lose 5 to 7 million jobs because of the coronavirus. How quickly can the Senate act?
Well, Ed, we have to act very quickly. We are committed to staying here through the weekend. I personally am not leaving until we get relief for hardworking families past.
All right. I want to turn to preparedness and your actions in recent weeks. January 24th, you tweeted out this: appreciate today's briefing from the president's top health officials on the novel coronavirus outbreak. These men and women are working around the clock to keep our country safe and healthy, included Dr. Tony Fauci. He was there, among others. You preached calm to the public in your tweet. Did you leave that briefing with worry, or were you reassured that they were prepared?
I felt very confident that we were prepared. I think where we stand today, we could not have imagined how this has unfolded. But I will tell you, I commend the president, the task force, the vice president, all the doctors and nurses on the ground who are working so hard to address this.
Okay.
And I think the president's early actions in terms of putting that travel ban on, putting travel limitations, have been the right thing to slow this down, to develop diagnostics.
So, Senator, pardon me, you thought the government was prepared, yet shortly after that tweet that I just noted, you sold over $1 million in stocks in your own personal portfolio before the market went down. Were you trading on inside information about what was coming?
Well, I'm really glad you asked, Ed, because I do want to set the record straight. I've seen some of those stories, and it's absolutely false, and it could not be true. So if you actually look at the personal transaction reports that were filed, it notices at the bottom that I'm only informed of my transactions after they occur, several weeks. So certainly those transactions, at least on my behalf, were a mix of buys and sells, very routine for my portfolio.
Okay.
And, you know.
You say they were routine, Senator, pardon me, but I mentioned the sales before stocks went down. They also purchased your third-party advisors, Sitnix, as I understand, which is a teleconferencing company. With workers displaced now, given the crisis, teleconferencing companies are doing quite well. Who are these third-party advisors? They seem to have a pretty good idea about where the market was headed.
Well, certainly I'm not involved in the decisions around buying and selling. There's a range of different decisions made every day with regard to my savings and 401k portfolios that I'm not involved in. And certainly, like any other trade, you can't see into the future. I come out of the financial services industry where I have over 20 years of experience of dealing and complying with very strict standards around material non-public information. I'm the only chartered financial analyst in the Senate, and I completely understand these rules and have adhered to the letter and the spirit of these ethics
Senator,
rules.
you mentioned your background. Your husband, as I understand, is the CEO of the company that owns the New York Stock Exchange. Is there a conflict here, since there were purchases that suggest that you've done well with some stocks, like the teleconferencing that I mentioned, while we have Americans across the country who have seen their 401ks plummet?
That's right. I mean, this is where you need to know that when we acquired the New York Stock Exchange back when I was part of the company, we actually put the first set of rules in that prohibited discretionary trading. So no longer do my husband and I have the ability to do discretionary trades, and that's why it's outsourced to third-party investment managers. And that's why I'm up here in Washington working for hard-working Georgian families and families across our country so that the American dream can stay intact. I've spent the last 10 days 24/7 around the clock working to hear the stories of our hardworking Georgians, waitresses, hospital administrators, state and county public health officials, to figure out what is needed. And I've advocated successfully to get that in the legislation that we're advancing today.
Well, Senator, I noticed that there was a spike in cases in Georgia overnight with the coronavirus. We're certainly thinking about your state and all the states around the country. Last question. You say that this was all above board. If the Securities Exchange Commission or other entities like the Senate Ethics Committee want to look at this, are you going to cooperate fully?
Absolutely. This is why I came to the U.S. Senate, to bring outside business perspective. I think people will have no problem getting access to anything that they have questions about, and I'm glad to take any questions at all today.
Well, Senator, we appreciate you taking our questions, and again, we wish everyone in Georgia and around the country well. Thanks for coming in, Senator.
Thanks, and God bless.
You too.
Fox News Alert now. We are waiting for the White House coronavirus task force that is happening the president